after my office lunch, and I was like, "Hey, what am I really doing here?" And I asked that question, and the answer was pretty clear. What I have analyzed, I think, between the two countries, in your home, I think the life is great in India, but once you step out on the road, it can get a bit rough. When you do your education, you spend a lot of resources, like money. You take a loan, education loan, that's also very expensive. You do part time along with your studies generally, so that is a very tough life, a tough couple of years that you would have to go through. And even after that, it's not a guarantee that you will get a job, because it
Yeah.
depends on a lot of factors. You just plan your tax year accordingly. So I made sure I would come after so if you come after October, you don't become a tax resident in India.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Desi Return. Today, we have Damneet on our show. Damneet went to Ireland in 2019, spent close to 4 years before deciding to move back to India last year. He is a chartered accountant by profession, and he went to Ireland on an opportunity from the career side. And I'm really looking forward to someone from a non-IT, right? How the opportunities are in abroad, how the life for someone who has grown up in Delhi, spending time away from family in abroad, and what brought him back to India and so on. With that, welcome Damnit to the show.
Thanks, Avinash. Thanks for having me over on your show. And great. Hi, everyone.
Great. So thanks, Damnit. So let's get start a bit about your background. Where were you born, brought up, and what made you to move to Ireland? I think that would be very helpful.
Yeah, so I've been born and brought up in Delhi, um, and I studied there. I did my bachelor's, Delhi University, then did my chartered accountancy, completed that by 2018. And post that, I was, as a CA fresher, I was looking for more opportunities, and I was already working in Gurgaon at that time. And then after qualification, I was looking for a career change, or kind of uplifting my career. And at that time, I had an offer from like I was gonna go to Bangalore at that time. And then I think I never had the plans to actually move to Ireland. It was basically suddenly, just this opportunity came because somebody I knew someone in Dublin, and they were like, if you're moving away from home the first time and you're gonna go to Bangalore, so do you want to try abroad? I was like, go ahead, here's my CV, give it a try. And that's how I actually ended up in Ireland.
Got it. So instead of some other place in India, you just decided to like, why not abroad? And then the opportunity came out. So why not give it a shot?
Exactly. Yeah. There was no, like, I didn't really aspire, like, classic aspiration to actually go abroad and settle abroad. That wasn't really the case for me. It was just a way of professional growth primarily, that and new experience in life. You want some change so that
Yeah.
you can be a better person overall. So I think that was the main motivating factor, just to experience different things, maybe travel, and yeah, professional growth. Like, a good opportunity was, I think, the prime driver for me to make the move.
Got it. So, how was the life in Ireland? I think pretty much you moved early in your career, right? I mean, immediately, I think pretty soon after joining, this organization, you had this opportunity and you left to Ireland. So, how was the life, career, work life in Ireland?
So yeah, I think the work life was very different than what it was in India. India, as we know, it's a hustle culture in corporate, as we see all over social media. and it's like long hours in India are very commonplace. And so, all of that was there. So I was looking for a change, and then Ireland was totally opposite. Europe is pretty famous for being laid back, but when I saw it, it was pretty much a eye opener for me, because I would be like, Indians have a culture of growth mindset, and you want to do different things, fast moving, environment. But Ireland wasn't, to my surprise, it wasn't that fast moving. It was a bit laid back, and people would say, okay, if there's something, you wouldn't really reach them. In India, it's a classic case that, you would, somebody's not responding, you'd call them, WhatsApp them, be it any hook or crook, you'll reach to them. But Ireland wouldn't be like that. If you've dropped an email, somebody doesn't respond, you will assume that, that person has something going on, or maybe, you'll wait till Monday, like 3 4 days, and then until the person comes back. So that was a surprise. It wasn't fast moving, it was slow, relaxed. People were, very warm. I would say Irish people are one of the most friendly people in the world. Nobody, like, nobody would be rude or anything. They'd be very friendly, easygoing. So that was kind of the work culture, although there was a lot of learning as well, because you first time moving out of India, you'd kind of see so many people. You're like, oh my God, it's a white world. And then everybody's like, very different in how people would behave, but you get the hang of it, I think, slowly and steadily.
Got it. So sounds like you after you going to Ireland, I know we were into this COVID world, right? Especially being in a new place. How was the adjustment? Just curious, how the life was there in Ireland, especially during the COVID time in 2020s.
That was so it was 20, May of 2019 is when I moved there, and luckily I had a few months before COVID struck. So I had because I didn't know anyone except the person who hired me there. So I had just one phone number when I arrived in the country, and from there on, I started to, from the workplace mostly, I started to getting more people, and I'd made some friends, and so that was good that I had like 7 8 about, I think, 9 months before COVID struck in March of 2020. I remember I was at one of like my client's office, and then it just struck immediately that it's all getting shut down. And then I think since then I was working from home continuously for 2 years. Like, I hadn't seen my office, anything, so it was mostly remote working from there until 2022. Restrictions were on and off in between, but that was largely it. And COVID adjustment, thanks to my friends there, it still went on well, but it was a tough time, living away from family, and it's like a strange country at the time. And COVID has struck. You don't know what's gonna happen. Initial months were, a bit, you would fear, and the times when all of us would check Worldometer like 4 times a day, and you'd see how many COVID cases and things like that. But yeah, I cherish those times, but it was tough as well.
Yes. So sounds like I think you had a good work life, good social circle, after moving back there. Uh, so why did I know you never had the aspiration to, settle there, but what was the motivating factor to move like last year, or the driving factor that made the move back to India?
Yeah, so initially, because I kind of knew, family and person wise, that I always want to be in India long term. So I had initially thought that I'll give it a try. Whatever I want to experience, I'll do 2 years. But then COVID struck, so I didn't really get the full experience because I was working from home most of the time. So I stayed on for a longer bit. So that made it 4 years. But always, like, I think the move back was certain, but I didn't know the time. So when I was going to do that, but I think in my professional journey, I was getting, progression and everything. So I would, you kind of wait for a bit. So that all that was going on. And then I changed my job in 2022, around March. I did that, a new role for 1.5 year. But then I realized that I had a long journey, like long professional journey still to go ahead. So why would I, if I have to move back, so let's take a decision now so that I can invest in the right people, right organizations, myself in my professional growth. Because there is always, I knew that there is an adjustment factor involved when you move places, like after doing a few years. So India changes rapidly as well. So I was like, rather than me moving back, so for context, I'm 30 at the moment. So I didn't want to move back at an age like, 35 or 37. I would say, I would move now, invest a few years, and then, build my life back in India.
Got it. So maybe I think if there is something that you can shed some light, especially if, working in Ireland, maybe from a uh, compensation, savings, anything that you can shed, right? I mean, some people think that, hey, if there is an opportunity to have enough corpus funds, it gives flexibility. That's one way of looking at it. The other way is kind of growing on a professional career. If there is an opportunity, doing that. I think I'm curious because I think you mentioned that you wanted to be back in India to build and be organized, be part of an organization to grow and all that stuff. So, curious on those two aspects. Maybe let's focus on the career growth. I know you switched a role in Ireland. How are the opportunities from a career growth in Ireland versus in India? At least how you perceived it, and I think that would be very helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think the classic thing what happens is when you, let's say, when anyone in India would get, or even when they're like, as a student, somebody goes and they get a, job offer, they do the conversion of a euro or a dollar into Indian rupees, and then that's the benchmark. Or, I get like, say, people would say, okay, I'm getting like 20 lakhs per annum in India, and I'm getting like 70, 80 lakhs in Ireland. But that's the totally, I think people forget to actually factor in the cost of living as well. Dublin is what I have read is, I think, one of the, like most expensive cities. I think it's in the top 15 easily. And you see that, like, it's really expensive. Although the salary at first you would see, okay, it's a great salary to move. But then you realize that it's whatever you're doing is kind of the benchmark. So, let's say in a corporate strata as well, if you're doing a certain job at a certain level, you would get, you would place yourself there only. Like, the economics would work around it. So your cost of living would match up. And versus India and I think Ireland, you do get a lot of opportunities in terms of more cash, maybe it's easier to travel. So let's say, if you want to go to Spain or France, it's easy and cheaper than it would work out from India. But otherwise, there are other costs involved as well. Let's say if you make a trip back home every year, or, let's say my situation, the I think biggest economic factor was also because let's say I live with my parents in Delhi. So the rent cost kind of goes away. And that's a major cost, easily 35% of your disposable income in Ireland. So that goes away, plus other things like healthcare or, other things like traveling in general, those things, eating out. So once in a while you do that, so those kind of things are quite expensive in comparison to India.
Yeah.
So ultimately, I think the non-monetary bit kind of catches up. The monetary benefit on a net basis in an annual year that you would get is kind of surpasses if you don't, let's say, have a, rental cost in India, or, your cost, or, your expenses are limited in India, then it kind of matches up and you shouldn't really see it on a gross basis. I think
Okay.
it's very important to factor in the cost of living.
Yeah, I mean, it's an important, right? Especially like, some of the comfort, some of the things that you have in India, like, with the family, with the different dynamics, the food, uh, unless there is some gap, like whether it's career, whether it's like, some other factors or, like the net savings, you just evaluate these options. So I think the takeaway, what I understood from you is, if you have like some of these aspects, like the rent and some of the expenses from a travel, if you take that into consideration, the net savings that you would see from Ireland could be very comparable to what you can have in India. I mean, if you have
Yeah.
those, I mean, yeah,
If you remove the rental cost, I think it's very much comparable in a in a multinational corporate kind of a job.
yeah.
If you compare, then yeah.
Okay, got it. How about the career opportunities? Is it similar, like when you're talking about a multinational, especially from a someone who is in a chartered accountant role, which is a different, right? I don't know, like the opportunities, how it works in abroad, in Ireland, or
Yeah.
maybe you can shed some light in from that because it is certifications, knowing the rules. Maybe you can
Right.
give some insights on that.
So I think specifically Ireland, I think it will benefit your viewers as well. So for CAs, lawyers, doctors, nurses, few skilled professions, it offers you a stamp one or a critical permit on which I went. So after that, after 21 months, which is a very short time period, so you don't have to stick with one employer, and you can actually get it's kind of an Irish green card or an EU green card, which is equivalent to a PR. So you can do everything, you can switch jobs, you want to do anything. You don't need a sponsor to actually live and stay there anymore after 21, which is one of the shortest time spans. Usually, I think in the UK, on a comparison, it's about 5 years you stick with one employer. So that was one of the benefits, and that was great. But in terms of opportunities, you there are endless because Ireland is a big hub for IT and finance as well. So a lot of funds are there because it's one of the EU's tax havens. So there are a lot of big funds there, a lot of financial activities going on. So I was with one of the big fours into audit at the time, and then switched to a finance role. So that was so the opportunities are, I would say, they're endless. And although Ireland and Dublin, it's all concentrated in Dublin actually. So a lot of the most of the opportunities are there, and IT is really big. If somebody wants to move to Dublin, I think Facebook and all of those big IT companies have large EU setups. And the main benefit is because when you're working in anywhere else in Europe, you have to have a language like a local,
Yes.
if you move to Germany, German is a big problem. A lot of my friends have faced that problem. But in Ireland, it's an English speaking country, so I think there's only benefit to it. Your English kind of improves, I think.
Yeah. Cool. Um, so I understand. I think the reasons to move back, like why last year, was there some career opportunity where you have an option to move, or was it even before having that opportunity decided, okay, I'm moving back so and so, and then maybe help me understand the timing part of the move, if you can, and
Yeah.
the planning that happened, around that.
Yeah, I think I don't really regret it, but I think it was no planning as I went. I think I've been still. I think I'm as a person I'm the same. So I went very randomly, but I came back very randomly as well. This one day. So after I switched the job, but it was like slower paced organization than what work I was doing, and I was catching up very fast, and it wasn't that challenging. So that, I think, kind of instigated in my head, and it was brewing for a few months. I think 5 6 months before that, it was brewing in my head. I have to go. What am I really doing here? You ask yourself the question, because the growth at one time, you're not really chasing just money or promotions, and then you're like, there's a phase I like, I what am I doing here? So I think it was a random day. I still very remember the day, sunlight coming on me. I'm just walking after lunch, after my office lunch, and I was like, hey, what am I really doing here? And I asked that question, and the answer was pretty clear. I should really, maybe move back. And I had no plans because I was working continuously for a good period of 9 years, switching jobs and roles, Friday leaving a job, and Monday joining a new one. So I was continuously working for a good number of years. And that's why I thought that it's a good time to actually take a break as well. So I finished last year August with my job and everything, and left Ireland, and I packed my bags, and I was like, I'm gonna just travel. So I traveled for about 3 months until I think last October, just before Diwali. I was like, I'll just head back now. It's So I went to the US and Turkey as well on the way. So yeah, I spent a good few months traveling.
Good. Sounds like you want a break, and it's a good time when you're making the change and decompress. Take the time off, like spread around, and sounds like I think that's a good plan. I think just taking the time off and
I don't
having
know.
that flexibility and doing that. So, how was it getting an opportunity like after that, right? I mean, back like when you started looking again for opportunities in October of last year, how are things like in India in terms of the opportunities and so on for CS?
So yeah, I think like I didn't really seek a job immediately because I wanted to spend just time to just my get my get like settled mentally, logistically, everything, just permanently that I'm back and just spending time with my family for a few weeks, and then I was like I'll just it's getting a bit I because I was used to working, so I was like I've had my travel, I'm well settled now, so I'll just look for a job. And actually I didn't really look for many jobs like because coincidentally the person who hired me then in Ireland had moved to India 6 months ago.
Okay.
Right. so, so he had moved to Mumbai and I gave him a call, and yeah, that's so it was pretty quick. I didn't do the job hunting process back home, and I got a good opportunity. So yeah, that was good. I'm still into like a consulting role at the moment.
That's fantastic. Yeah. So it's been about an year, since you've been living in India after the move back. So how is the life? Is there at any point you regret, hey, why couldn't I spend more time in Ireland or maybe another country, right? You get an opportunity to spend time in US or other places. So just curious, has that thought occurred to you? Because it's just a random day, like you decided, hey, this is what I want to do, and then you made a decision. So just wondering on that.
Yeah, I think the nostalgia was pretty, I think, strong. So when I think joined the workplace in the initial months, because I worked in India was 2019, and I was like, hey, this is nostalgic, and it hasn't changed that much. So yeah, it was different. It was a culture adoption as well. Like back you're settling back, but it was quick because I'm a Delhi boy, so it was a quick adoption. And then in terms of I think nostalgia, it comes every now and then that oh like it would have been very different. Like when you see the infrastructure in let's say Delhi or a lot of places when it's not that good, then you say okay this could have been better in our country. But then when you see actually when inside your home, so I think my what I have analyzed, I think between the two countries, in your home I think the life is great in India, but once you step out on the road it can get a bit rough. So that's where I think the main comparison is. So I think like roads and general public infrastructure, that's way better in Ireland versus or any other Western country. But that is where we try to improve. But I think your personal life improves in India a lot. Your, family, society, friends, everybody, and it's easy to talk. So, because at times, you can gel around well with foreign people and, everything is good. But then you still have that, with your own people, you can connect way better, way easier. You can just do anything. You're more free.
A lot of common
There,
things to talk about, more free, and they can connect to your
yeah,
conversations. It's a context of like what you're referring to or talk. I mean, you can
yeah.
be yourself.
Correct. So yeah, so that way I think it's better. You just feel more comfortable, and India is a convenient country, I think, in a lot of ways. If like I wouldn't generalize that, like it's a hard life as well. But I think like when you go, let's say traffic is a lot, that's a big problem. Everywhere you see there's just people. Because for context, let's say Delhi is 30 million people in a city, almost,
Yeah,
including NCR. Dublin itself had just 1 million people. So I think after, although I was an expat, even after like 3, 4 years, like you would bump into people very easily. In Delhi, that never happens.
Yeah, so many people.
Yeah, right. So it was very, it would be very hard to actually see people there. So, but here in Delhi, I think it's very convenient. Like, these days with, e-commerce has grown so much. Like you click a button, you get it very easily.
Yeah,
Although it differs, various. But I think if let's say you're doing a corporate job or anything, like I think like affordability is there to actually make your life quite convenient, because for the same kind of job, if you're doing, let's say, in Ireland or anywhere, it's not that convenient. You're cleaning your house yourself, and things like that, which we take, okay, India, it's just so easy. You never even think about it, like cooking. You're like, I'll hire someone to cook or things like that, or you just get it. You never think about it.
yeah,
But I think in Ireland, you have to actually think, oh, you have to go and get like groceries. You have to cook yourself. You have to clean yourself. There's no help at all, I think, in terms of labor, because the labor cost in Western countries is extremely expensive.
sure.
So that is a big difference, I think.
Yeah, cool. Is there anything else that we haven't covered that you want to bring up?
I think we have covered the financials part of it, but I think like I would want to like bring up this point that when you actually do a comparison between, I think, different countries, and where you would generally, what the main immigration route is, people go and see, okay, where can I do a course, do, let's say, a master's, and then I'll start working. So I think a lot of the friends that I met there, I think it's a misconception. So to get the job in that, if I went directly with a job,
Yeah,
so it wasn't like there was no problem. But then there's a harder life as well, a harder route wherein you do your education, you spend a lot of resources, like money, you take a loan, education loan, that's also very expensive. You do part time along with your studies generally. So that is a very tough life, a tough couple of years that you would have to go through. And even after that, it's not a guarantee that you will get a job, because it
yeah,
depends on a lot of factors. So I think that is something that people should really consider, and then also come up with a concrete this thing that that how much would you actually end up with, and is it worth it in comparison to your non-monetary things that you lose as well, like because you don't realize until you're homesick.
yeah,
So you have to actually experience that, and then you actually realize that is a certain amount worth it, living away. And then you start questioning yourself. Although it is a great, I think I would never regret it. I would say that everybody should kind of experience it if you haven't, and you haven't really lived away from home. It teaches you the value. Like now, I value what I have now is way more, like my family, friends, convenience of life in Delhi, which I would have never, I would have taken it for granted. So I think you realize the value of things. So that's
yeah.
great.
It's definitely the value, and also even how you think, right? It just gives a different perspective of the life. It just opens your horizon, thinking process. So it's not, I think, always monetary. It's also you getting that exposure, open up how you even approach things. Definitely, for sure. But your point, especially if somebody is making an investment to get a job or something, like a resources they're spending on the education, they want to evaluate, consider all the factors, and make a decision. I think the informed decision is the key point, I think, that you're trying to say, for sure. And
Yeah.
yeah, is there anything that you want to give as an advice for the future aspirants who are considering about moving to India? Anything from your side that you wanted to share?
I think few things that you have to be very mindful of is, you kind of plan your, because I think I'm a chartered accountant, so I'll just go, that was one thing. So, you just plan your tax year accordingly. So I made sure I would come after, so, if you come after October, you don't become a tax resident in India. So just ensure all your tax days, how many when you're moving back. That is one consideration. File your returns. I think you get a good refund from the Irish government because you would have worked part year
Yes.
there if you're moving back. So that is something that you should keep in mind. Other than that, I think it's pretty much an easy process. Like, you just take a flight and come back and start your life. In India, I think if you would have worked earlier, so I think shouldn't be an hassle. Otherwise, I think you would have like basic documents anyway. So I think not other than that, you don't really have to do anything while you're there. Like from an Irish perspective, there's not much that you have to do. You just, pack your bags and just come back. And that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's great. So thanks a lot, Damnit, for sharing your journey, especially from someone who is in the CA side, right? I think we have guests, who are from IT, mechanical engineering, like more on engineering professionals or on doctors. But I think you are the first guest with an, chartered account background, and interesting to get some perspectives of your life in Ireland and the reasons to move back to India. So thanks a lot for
Sure.
sharing your story on our platform.
Great. Thank you so much, Avinash. It was great. It was a pleasure.